What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be launching a brand new segment on my channel called MindScience. This series is going to be about everything that pertains to the science of the mind. And so I thought that for the first episode, what better way to kick it off than to start with a video about meditation basics. Over the last few weeks, I've had a lot of people actually commenting on some of my videos asking me if I would do a video on meditation. And I thought, strangely enough, I actually haven't done a video on meditation yet. So, what better way to kick off the new series? In this video, I'm going to be going over just the fundamental basics of meditation, which is the what, why, and how. What is meditation? Why should you meditate? And how should you meditate? Now, the first thing to understand about meditation is that in its most basic definition, meditation means being completely present. If I had $1 for every time I've heard someone say, you know, I just can't meditate because I can't silence my thoughts, I could probably go buy a new Ferrari. Actually, I don't even like Ferraris. The truth is that having a silent mind has absolutely nothing to do with meditation. You do not need to have a silent mind to be meditating. Even taking one conscious breath is technically a meditation. Meditation is essentially whenever you are sitting and observing the activity of your mind. And in order to do that, you must be present. Whenever you are firmly present in the moment without being dragged away by the mind's narration about it, you are in a meditative state. So when we meditate, all we are really trying to do is to remain as the observer of our thoughts. Because normally, you're being dragged away by your thoughts all throughout the day, and you are not aware that this process is happening. So meditation is to slow the activity of the mind down so that we take a step back and disconnect from the thinking mind and are able to observe it. Now, this might not sound like a very significant thing, but in actuality, it's the most significant thing. Because when you are observing your thoughts, you have created a subject-object split from the thought, which means you are now standing back in a deeper place of consciousness and observing the thought. So you are no longer entangled in the feelings and emotions and triggers that the thought might bring you. You are able to see whatever the moment is requiring of you. People have a really hard time being present in their day-to-day life. They can almost never truly enjoy a moment because their mind is already thinking about the next moment. So through this practice of meditation, you begin to gain back control of your own mind. And the importance of this cannot be overstated. Now, if you imagine the sky on a cloudy day, the clouds represent your thoughts and the sky represents your consciousness, or you. Consciousness is vast and infinite like space. So to the sky, it doesn't matter what kind of clouds there are. It doesn't matter if the clouds are dark and rainy or white and fluffy, or if the clouds are completely gone and the sky is empty. It makes no difference to the sky. So when we meditate, you become as the sky and simply observe the thoughts passing through your mind. The power that this develops is that you begin to see the illusory nature of thoughts, that they arise and if you don't attach to them, they quickly vanish. But if you attach to them, then they have the right to now hang out in your consciousness and cause all kinds of trouble for you. But thoughts in and of themselves are actually completely unnecessary. They are a byproduct of our evolutionary past, and they are actually not needed any longer. People believe that when they're in meditation and there's lots of thoughts going by, that they aren't meditating, that they're not really in their true self yet, because their mind needs to be silent first. And so what I would ask you to contemplate is, does the ocean become any less ocean-like with big ripples and waves? Does the ocean say, oh, I'm so sorry, please come back tomorrow when I'm more still and calm. I'll be much more ocean-like without all these waves. Neither are you any less consciousness when the mind is full of thoughts or when it is empty of thoughts, because you are not the mind. You are the intelligence or awareness that knows the mind, that observes the mind, that perceives the mind. That being said, it is true to say that an experienced meditator will have a very different experience than a novice meditator, because the experienced meditator has been doing this for quite some time, and so they have starved the thinking mind of so much oxygen that their mind does not stir up very much noise anymore. Whereas the novice meditator is going to have a lot of mind noise when they begin. So it's important to understand that in meditation, even though you look very relaxed and calm on the outside, it is not a relaxed and calming activity on the inside. You are basically playing king of the hill in your own mind. you are standing at the top of the hill and thoughts are climbing up the hill trying to pull you off. And it's very, very difficult not to be pulled away by them in the beginning. So through this practice, you begin to develop the power of your concentration. Now, if you imagine your concentration like a laser, in the beginning, your concentration power is like a laser pointer. It doesn't yet have very much power to cut through the chaos of the mind. But as you become more experienced in meditation, you become like Cyclops from X-Men. And so now, even when the mind is stirring up a lot of chaos, you have the power to blast right through it and access that silent peace within yourself. So just know that when you begin meditating, even though you may look like this on the outside, on the inside, you look more like this. Now, why should you meditate? We've already touched on a few reasons you might want to start meditating, but the most primary reason is to see how little control you actually have over your mind. The whole point of meditation is to sit down and try not to think. And so when you do this, you find that not even 5 seconds goes by before you're dragged away into another story again. And the consequences of this seemingly insignificant thing are exponential in your actual life. Most people go through their life with the uninvestigated assumption that they are their ego, they are their mind, they are the thinker of thoughts. But in reality, when you investigate it, you find that there is no thinker of thoughts. Meaning there is no actual entity choosing each thought that arises. You never sit down and go, okay, I could think thought A, thought B, or thought C. I choose to think thought B. That's not what happens. Thoughts are just arising by themselves all throughout your day according to your personal conditioning. So you end up endowing every thought which arises in the mind with this personalized sense of self, when in reality, you didn't choose to think that thought. Most of the thoughts we think, if we really are honest, we would prefer not to think them. How many times have you blurted something out of your mouth and then said to yourself, you know, I didn't even feel that way? How many times have you done something and then gone, I didn't even really want to do that? That's because it is a mind-made program that is running you and pretending to be you. So if you do not have the ability to cut through the bullshit of the mind at any moment in your life, then you are essentially doomed to being a puppet on its string. You have to say whatever it says, you have to do whatever it does. And this is what makes you inauthentic and makes people not like you very much. And this is the cause of every single aspect of suffering in your life. So in meditation, we are trying to drain the thinking mind of energy so that when it does think thoughts, they don't come with very much weight attached to them, very much punching power. So they are easily ignored and discarded. And we can remain in that silent, aware peace that is our natural essence. The second reason why you should meditate is to begin expanding your consciousness. Why should you care about expanding your consciousness? Well, as we talked about at the beginning of the video, you are consciousness. You are not the mind, you are the consciousness which knows the mind. So meditation helps you to begin expanding your consciousness, or your sense of self, and shifting your identity from the ego, where it normally resides, over to consciousness. And this is where true freedom and inner peace comes from. And so the mind depends on your attention in order to stay alive, because where you place your attention is where you place your energy. As I said in the beginning of the video, the ego is a byproduct of evolution. So it is built to survive at any and all costs. What this means is that the mind is very crafty and very tricky. It's really, really good at getting you to pay attention to it. It knows all the juiciest stuff that's irresistible to you. So you need to begin expanding your consciousness so that you can more easily become aware of what the ego's doing and catch it before it snags you on the fish hook. Now, what does expanding consciousness actually mean? I can explain it best through the following analogy. Imagine that thoughts are like rocket ships, which are being shot up out of the atmosphere. The space represents consciousness. Now the rocket ship needs to get out of the atmosphere of the mind and into space where your consciousness is in order to begin stealing energy from you. It's very important to understand that the ego can only be an unconscious movement, meaning it can only steal your energy when you are not aware of the fact that it is. The moment you become aware that a thought has come from the ego, it begins to be drained of power. Now, when you live from ego identity, which 99% of humans do, then you live from a state of reactivity. The ego is reactive and the true self is responsive. So when you don't have the ability to cut through the bullshit of the mind, then any moment in your life where something bad happens, someone betrays you, your car breaks down, you lose your job, you have no choice but to be swept away by the onslaught of emotions that your mind stirs up. The true self, however, is never swept away by anything. It simply responds to the needs of the moment with perfect clarity and perfect timing. It doesn't create stories and it doesn't create chaos. The ego is a triggered mechanism. It is simply responding to stimulus like a software program. The true self is responsive and it is triggerless, meaning it always responds with perfect intelligence. So expanding consciousness represents increasing the atmosphere or the space above the rocket ship so that when the mind launches a thought, it has a lot farther distance to go before it makes it out of the atmosphere. And eventually, the atmosphere becomes so great that the rocket ship can't make it out and falls back into emptiness again. And this is when you start to access the state of what is called in spiritual traditions, the silent mind. A silent mind does not necessarily mean there are no thoughts present. What it means is that the absolute recognition has been made that thoughts are meaningless in and of themselves, and therefore the consciousness that you are has stopped endowing them with significance. Once this recognition has been made, then the thought rocket ships don't have enough fuel to get out of the atmosphere anymore. The best part about it is this becomes a permanent state of being for you because meditation begins to happen by itself throughout your daily life. You don't have to put any effort forth because consciousness has expanded so much that all the thoughts of ego coming up are easily spotted over and over again. And this intelligence that you actually are is super precise, super accurate. It does not miss anything the mind does. And so you begin to win yourself back more and more every day without actually putting any effort into it. Now, hopefully that gives you enough reason why you should start meditating. So finally, let's talk about how to meditate. Now, there's a ton of different forms of meditation out there, all of which are great, but I'm just going to give you the simplest and most basic form of meditation. Now, you want to sit somewhere comfortably, but not too comfortably. I don't recommend laying down when you meditate because it's very easy to fall asleep. And remember, when we meditate, although we look like Buddha on the outside, we are a warrior on the inside. We're staying very focused and concentrated. You don't need to have your legs crossed like a Zen master or anything like that. Just sit somewhere that's comfortable but keeps you aware and keeps you awake. The next thing I recommend you do is to get a pair of earphones and use a meditation app like Ananda or something on YouTube that has the sound of moving water or the sound of rain. The reason I prefer using the sound of water over a spoken mantra is because a mantra is actually a pretty advanced technique that takes a lot more concentration power. But any beginner can start meditating and simply lock their attention onto the sound of the rain or the water and begin rejecting any thoughts that appear. And when I say reject, I don't mean literally reject with some sort of energetic force, but I mean observe and refuse to engage with them. Refuse to associate or attach with the thought and allow it to pass by. Now, it's important to know when you begin meditating, you are going to have your awareness dragged away by thoughts many, many times. This is a normal part of the process, and it is very important not to allow the mind to guilt trip you after this happens, because that in and of itself is also the mind trying to steal energy from you. Every time your awareness gets stolen away by a thought and you bring your awareness back again, it's like doing a bicep curl for your consciousness. And it's this return movement that begins to beef up your consciousness and build up that strength of concentration that we talked about at the beginning of the video. So you don't need to start very long with this. 3 to 5 minutes is perfectly fine. Because if you're actually new to meditating, then there's no way you're going to be truly meditating for more than a few minutes when you start. Meditation quickly turns from a task into a joy. And once meditation becomes a joy and something you look forward to, this is when the practice really begins to increase exponentially. You begin to see the benefits in every aspect of your life, and you start to enjoy this new sense of freedom that you have, and this makes you crave meditating even more. And once you get to this stage in your meditation journey, which doesn't take very long, honestly, then your growth begins to accelerate very rapidly. And that's when the true benefits of meditation begin to be pronounced in your life. So that's all for this episode, and I hope you guys find those tips to be helpful. If you have any questions about anything I went over in the video, feel free to drop me a comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Until next time, thanks for watching, be blessed, and happy meditating.